Hi guys, it's Jordan from B&P Campers. I'm just going to be doing a handover video on this Swift Bolero motorhome. It's a 630 PR model. So what I'll do is I'll start my way, I'll start under the bonnet and then work my way all the way around the outside. And then I'll show you through to the inside once that's all done. So the bonnet release handle is just here inside the passenger door. And these ones are pretty easy to open up. So you literally lift up a little bit, find the tab, and then you can release it. I'm just going to lift this open like that. So we're just giving it a wash. That's why it's dripping, by the way. So pretty much all of the fluids and sort of consumable bits and pieces are all on the left-hand side. So starting at the top left, we've got your washer fluid, power steering fluid, and engine coolant. We've then got your brake fluid and your engine oil and dipstick just down here. You've got two chassis plates on here. So the original Fiat one is this one just here, but you really need to ignore that one because it's actually had an Alco chassis when it was converted by Swift. This one that says Alco on it is the one that you need to be looking at. So this is the more up-to-date one here. Any touch-up paints for the silver colour throughout the vehicle is Fiat 611A, as you can see there. And then over on the right-hand side, we've got your air filter inside this box here. And because the engine battery sits under the floor, under a cover in the cab, they do actually give you a positive terminal just here, under this flap, and a negative terminal just here to the bottom right. So if you need to jump start the vehicle, that's the 2 points that you would go to. As I said, inside the passenger door is the bonnet release handle just there, and your jack and wheel brace kit is here underneath the passenger seat. The diesel filling point is just here behind this little cover, and you will need your ignition key in order to open that up. The door is on a sort of latch system at the top just there. All right, so you can open it up to a certain point. You have got a full blind just there, not a fly screen, a blind for the door so that you can't see straight through the glass. There's no external step just here because it is what you might call like a low line vehicle. All right, so you've got a step to get in just there, nice and easy to get into. So yeah. Right, so the gas locker is the next locker we get to. So we've got space in here for 2 of these 6 kilo propane bottles. To turn the gas bottle on, we go anti-clockwise around to the left, like that. That'll turn the gas on, and all the way down clockwise around to the right will turn it off. Make sure that you turn the gas off before you start driving. That's really important. And if you ever find that you can't get any gas to come through to the inside of the van, it's always worth checking that you press this little green button in for 2 or 3 seconds to allow the gas to purge through the crash sensor. So it does give you a bit of information on that up here on the top right. But basically, you've got a crash sensor on this particular type of regulator. So if the regulator senses that you've been in a crash, or it thinks that you've been in a crash, it will isolate the gas from going through the regulator and into the van. So to purge it back through again, if it does think that, press and hold on here for 2 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, and it will allow the gas to carry on going through. So basically, if you go over a big bump or something like that in the road, it can sometimes think that you've been in a crash, which is why it will isolate it. But, you know, realistically, you should have the gas turned off before you start driving anyway. But there you go. So the next thing is our external gas point. So the reason they put them here underneath the awning is so that you can have your sort of barbecue or whatever you want plugged into it here outside the awning. You've also got an LED awning light just here as well. So yeah, that's the idea behind that. I'm just quickly going to turn the heater off because otherwise it's going to make an absolute racket. Okay. Oh, I'll worry about that later. Right, so yeah, so talking about that, we've got the external gas point just there underneath the awning. Next to that, we've got your external hot and cold water point as well. So there should be a fitting for that inside the van somewhere. I'm not sure exactly if it is, but yeah, hot and cold water point just there. Literally plug it in and twist left or right depending on which way around you want the hot water or the cold water. Under this little cover here is your leisure battery area. Okay, so if you ever need any access to the leisure battery, that's where it is, just down there. And we've got all of your factory fitted carpets here as well. Underneath that is your freshwater drain off point. So quite literally twist it 90 degrees and that will allow you to drain out your freshwater. And we've got your freshwater filling point just here at the back. Okay, so you quite literally just unscrew the cap there and then start filling the water up. It's really, really easy. At the back of the van, we've got the twin reversing camera at the top, 2-bike rack, and the tow bar there as well. And that's about it for the back. So on the off side of the van, we've got your Audi heating system. So if you've got the Audi heating system switched on, you should feel warm air coming out through the bottom of this vent just here, just as a way of double checking that it's working. Further along, we've got your electric hookup point just down here. So if you do have access to a hookup cable, it's a really nice thing to have plugged in. Having the hookup plugged in means that you don't have to worry about your battery voltage, and it means that you'll be able to use any of your mains powered appliance, including your 3-pin like household sockets. So they won't work unless the hookup's plugged in. Okay, so that's where your hookup point is. Make sure that you hear that little click that you heard just there when you close it, otherwise it will just flap around in the wind whilst you're driving, which is very annoying. So these two vents just here are both to do with the fridge. So if you do have the fridge lit up on gas, don't worry if you can hear a little bit of like a whirring noise down here. It's totally normal. It just means that it's working properly. So any access to the back of the fridge that you might need are these two just here. Down low to the right of that, we've got your wastewater drain off point. So if you wanted to drain out the wastewater tank, you twist this little valve open and it'll drain everything out onto the floor. So just make sure that you know where, if you need to drain the wastewater out, make sure that you know where you're going to go and do it. But yeah, that's about it on that one. And then this last one here is your toilet cassette locker. So this is like an industry standard Thetford toilet cassette. It's not a huge amount to it. You've got a freshwater flush on here, so you haven't got any separate flush water to worry about or anything like that. So as long as you've got some water in the fresh tank, you'll be able to flush the toilet. To remove the cassette, you lift up on this little front piece here, this little orange piece, and then pull the cassette towards you. You'll then be able to take it all the way out and take it to wherever it needs to go. To actually empty the cassette out, twist this little piece here towards you and then unscrew this cap. Okay, it's a bit sunny there. Unscrew the cap and then you can take it out. Okay. When you're physically draining it out from there, hold down this little orange button here at the back, which will release a little bit of pressure whilst you're draining it out and make it a lot easier for you. Once you've emptied it out, use this cap here as a measuring cup for your blue fluid that goes back inside here. Give it a little swish around and then make sure that when you push it back in, that this little orange piece sits over the lip and it stops it from pulling back forwards. And once you've done all of that, that's it. You can use it again. So in the cab, we've got quite a lot of stuff to show you. So we've got the full cab blinds. The sun is so bright today. Full cab blinds. So when I squeeze on these two buttons here together, it will then allow me to take the blind all the way across like that. Okay. When it gets to this side, it'll sort of latch onto its little magnetic strip and then won't fall back out again, basically. When you're putting it back, just be careful and be really gentle with it. These things are notoriously sort of easy to damage if you're a bit heavy-handed with them. So just please be careful with them. They are not cheap to replace. So yeah, just bear that in mind. On the actual door itself, you can lock and unlock the cab from this little button here. You've got your electric windows, and then you've got your electric adjusting mirrors from here. So you select which mirror you want to move, and then move it around like a joystick, really easy and easy to set up how you want it. So in the cab itself, over on the right hand side, we have got your headlight adjustments there in the middle, and then just a mode button, so that's so that you can change various things on the center screen just there. So that you know, that'll allow you to go in and change the time and the units and whatever else. So have a little play with that if you want to. On the right hand stalk, we've got your washers and wipers, just as standard on a UK vehicle, and the lights and indicators are on the left. Below that, we've got the cruise control stalk. I'm not sure the camera's going to pick it up. I'll just show you here on the side. Cruise control stalk, so you turn it on and off like that, and then adjust the speed with that one. You can pause and resume from this little button here on the left hand side as well. Okay. On the steering wheel, we've got the optional steering wheel switches and buttons and things. So we've got various switches. So you've got volume there, voice command. I'm not sure how that works personally, but you can have a go with that. And you can change the source, skip songs, answering your client phone calls, whatever, you know, have a little go with all of that. The stereo there is the factory fitted standard, like double DIN size head unit. We don't tend to go through and test these out too much, but yeah, I'm sure that it all works as it's all original. Down below that is your air conditioning switch and all of your heater controls. Now again, it's another one of those things that I very rarely explain because it's just so self-explanatory. You don't need me to go through and explain how to use that. It's you know, it'll be like second nature to you. And then below that, we've got another lock and unlock switch here for the cab, hazard lights and rear fog light. And that's it really. The reversing camera will come up on that little screen just there in the middle, and you can adjust that to however you want it to look. And yeah. So, both front seats will swivel round. These are the original factory fitted swivel bases. So pull on that one there, and that'll allow you to swivel the seat all the way around. Okay, so again, nice and straightforward on that, and a very, very easy mechanism. As I say, both front seats will do that if you want them to. But yeah, have a little play with that. You've also got this really, really nice big skylight up over the cab. There is a blind just here to cover that up. Just pull that bit out. There you go. So yeah, that blind will come all the way out, like so. Loads of natural light coming in from there. You've got these little reading lights as well, which come on and off with a little button on the back. And that is about it for the cab. So, general layout of this vehicle. Don't worry about, I've got a few seats up and a few cupboards open and everything. So don't worry about that just yet. But the layout of the vehicle is, you've got your side entry just here. Really good sized kitchen with various kind of LED strip lights underneath all over the place. So it's a really smart looking van, especially at night. Loads of worktop space there. It's quite normal for a motorhome to just literally have worktop up to here and then worktop up to the other side of the sink, so you don't really get any actual worktop space. But you've got plenty of room either side of this. Cutlery drawer just here. This, by the way, in the cutlery drawer is actually a fitting for the external gas point, so you can plug that in and then fit a rubber hose onto the end of it if you want to, just like an adapter really. On the other side, we've got the full-size fridge freezer and a floor-to-ceiling wardrobe here as well. So it's absolutely massive. I'll show you through inside there in a little bit. Bathroom, again, very good size. You've got your separate shower just here to the right-hand side so that you don't get everything soaking wet all the time that you're using it. Good space around the toilet just there, which is a swivel top toilet as well, and lots of LED lighting throughout. So yeah, right, so bed area at the back, we've got 2 single beds. So this is like 2 fixed single beds, or you can make it into a big double. Okay, So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can pull this. Yeah. So obviously I've got this up at the moment, but basically when you've got the seats down, you can pull the legs all the way out and they'll meet in the middle and make into a nice big double bed. You can as well, if you want to, remove this centerpiece just here so that you can turn this whole area into a big double bed, or you can leave it as it is and just use this section here as your double bed widthways. So it's up to you how you want to play it. I personally would probably leave this as it is, although obviously I've not used this particular vehicle, but I would probably leave this as it is and then sort of convert the bed up and have it just widthways like this. So have a little play with it and see how you think is best for you. I'm going to leave this open for now because there's a few things inside here that I need to show you about that are quite important. But that's about it really for the layout. So I'll run you through the control panel here. All right. Sorry, not control panel. The control panel is above the door. This is the power supply unit. That's what I meant to say. I'll run you through the power supply unit, which is essentially, you could sort of think of it as like the heart of the vehicle. So this is where everything electronic sort of comes from, if that makes sense. So everything that has power, so the leisure battery, the engine battery, the hookup, everything like that runs to here and then gets diverted around the vehicle to wherever it needs to go to, all from here. Okay. So you have got a really handy little diagram up here which explains to you how all of it works. Okay, it tells you what all the fuses do, what size they should be, what number they are, what they do. Also tells you what all the trip switches do and what they do as well. So if you ever get into any trouble, so let's just say, for example, you come into the van one day and you can't get the water pump to work. Now, obviously, we're always at the end of the phone or here on the site for any problems. But if you are away and we can't help you at the same time, then all you would need to do is have a little look up here, find the one that says water pump. There you go, number 8. Should be a 10 amp fuse, should be red, and that's it. So let's have a little look, find number 8, which is that one down there. Yes, it's a 10 amp fuse, and I could then check that fuse. Okay, so it's just really as easy as that. If you do find that, you know, and that's something as well that I think is really important for a customer to carry around a little bag of like random size fuses. It's so important because unfortunately with 12 volt electrics, sometimes they can just go. Of course, there's always a reason for it. But, you know, the water pump could blow the fuse if it's been on for too long, or if a light's just got a little bit too hot, it could blow a fuse or something like that. You know, it doesn't always mean there's a big problem. So I would always recommend carrying around a little bag of fuses just to quickly replace one on the off chance that it might, you know, get you out of trouble. So that's where all of your 12 volt things are there. So that's anything that runs from the leisure battery, basically. Above that is your mains trip switches. So as you can probably imagine, that's when you're hooked up on the mains. Okay. On the left-hand side, just here, we've got a couple of different buttons. So the one at the top isn't actually a button, it's just a light. So if you're plugged into a hookup cable that's been, the live and neutral have been swapped around, then it will come up here telling you that you've got reverse polarity. So basically, if you were to plug into a campsite in Europe, you might find that it will come up saying reverse polarity. But don't worry about it, it will still work, but it just means that your trips probably won't work in the same way. But that's all that light there means. So in other words, if you get that light come on in the UK, it means that somebody's played around with the cable, basically. Charger, that one can stay on all the time. So that's when you're hooked up on the mains, the charger will spring to life. So just leave that one as it is. And same for this one here, really, heating and hot water. If you turn that one off, it will turn the mains power off to the boiler, which means that when you try and use it on the control panel, it will throw up a fault code because you've turned it off from the panel here. So again, just leave these two buttons as they are, but I'm just letting you know that when you hook up on the mains, they will both light up. So that's totally normal. Okay. Last thing is this one here that says system shutdown. Now you don't need to press this for any reason other than if you're going to be messing about with something 12 volt electric. This is just a main isolator for everything 12 volt. Okay. And that's it really. That is the power supply unit, and that is, you know, like I said, sort of like the heart of the vehicle. So the control panel is, again, very, very simple, but it is all just here above the habitation door. So we've got a main power switch just here, which when I turn it on, it tells us either leisure battery or vehicle battery. So if I show you what I mean, when I press the vehicle battery over here, if you watch what happens on that little picture, it's swapped from here to here. So now what that means is that the engine battery is actually now powering all of the lights and anything 12 volt that I've got on in the back of the vehicle. So for obvious reasons, we don't want to do that very much, because pretty quickly the engine battery is going to go flat and we'll be stuck in a field somewhere not being able to start the engine up. So we don't want that. So for the most part, we want to leave it on leisure so that our light here is in the back. So now the leisure battery, which is in that locker down there that I showed you, is now the thing that's powering all of the stuff in the back end of the van. So that's exactly what you want it to do. We've then got cabin lights. So that's just all of your lights inside. View levels. When I press on that, it shows us the vehicle battery voltage, the wastewater level, the freshwater level, and the leisure battery voltage. So it shows you all of those levels. Water pump makes an absolute racket because we've got no water in the fresh tank. So that's got what you call a water alarm on it. So the idea and the reason that you would have that is because you really, really shouldn't ever run a water pump whilst it's dry. So if there's no water in the tank, you should never run the water pump. So that beeping noise is just telling you that it doesn't think you should have the pump on because it knows that the tank is empty. All right, so as soon as you start filling that fresh tank up, it will stop doing that when you turn the water pump on. Frost Protect is just a very, very small little heater inside the water tank, which will basically stop it from freezing up over a very, very cold night. So that's a 12 volt heater. It won't get the water hot, but it will stop it from freezing. Okay. And then the last button is the one that says awning light, which will give you another light on there, which, as you can probably imagine, turns on your awning light. And that is the control panel. So as long as you've come into the van, turn the power on and your cabin lights, then realistically you should have power going to pretty much everything. Okay, everything 12 volt anyway. So in regards to the water pump and the water system, like I was just talking about there, it's really important that you understand how it works. So with the water system in any motorhome, or any motorhome that has a hot water system, you have to understand that the cold water and the hot water are kind of separate. The pipes run alongside each other, yes, but they are kind of on separate lines. So the fresh water or the cold water side of things, so if I go to the right-hand side on this tap, and if I have water in the tank, if I were to draw the water through with the water pump switch on, the water comes directly from the tank and then just comes straight to the tap. It's from there to there, okay? That's on the cold water side. The difference with the hot water is that it actually has to run through the boiler first before it comes to the tap. So that being said, if the boiler isn't completely full to the top, then you will not get any water coming through to the tap. Okay, so what it will do is, if you do find that the boiler isn't full of water and you don't get any water coming through the hot side of the tap, basically what it's doing, if the pump's running, it's filling up the boiler for you. So say it's about 10 litres. It will be filling up the boiler, and then the moment that boiler gets completely full to the top, you'll then start seeing the water coming through the tap. Okay, so that is the only way to double check that it's definitely full up. So just long story short, if you want to come into the van and just double check that the boiler is definitely full of water before you start trying to use it, which is really important, then turn your power on, check that you've got water in the fresh tank, draw the water through on the hot side of the tap, and if it comes through nice and clearly without coughing and spluttering and going everywhere, then great, your boiler is definitely full of water and you can go ahead and use it however you want to. Okay. If you find that there's no water coming through the hot tap and you don't know why, then again, you need to power on, check that you've got water in the tank, and then there is one other thing that you need to check. So down here next to the boiler itself, which by the way is this sort of grey silver unit over on the right hand side, you've got this little yellow tab. Okay, so the little yellow tab is actually the boiler drain off point. So essentially, if you wanted to drain the water out of the boiler ready for winter, which is exactly what we've done here, it's seriously cold outside at the moment, hence why we have drained it out. So at the moment, if any water that goes to the boiler, so let's just say, for example, I've turned the water pump on the hot side of the tap, I've opened it up, all the water that runs to the boiler is going to just drain out onto the floor because the drain there is open. Okay, so if I actually want the boiler to fill up, I would have to put this down like so, and then draw the water through the hot side of the tap again and wait for the water to start coming through the tap. Okay, so once you've closed that off, the water will then go into the boiler and actually stay inside of it. And once it gets to the very top, it will then start feeding to the taps. Okay. For the time being, I'm going to leave that in the open position because I do not want any water inside there to freeze up over the next coming days where it's quite cold. Okay. Now, without trying to bore you too much with it, the reason that you need to make sure that the boiler is actually full of water before you start trying to use it is that, well, it's quite simple. Let's just say you had a kettle, like any household kettle. You plugged it into the wall there and switched it on. You would have already made sure that you had some water in that kettle, at least some. So when you turn the boiler on, it's exactly the same as switching on a kettle. It's exactly the same thing. And so if you've got no water inside that boiler, when you try and get the water hot, it's just going to overheat and probably cause some damage. So it's really important, make sure that you've got water coming through the hot side of the tap before you start using the boiler. Okay? So that being said, talking about the boiler, I will now show you how to use it. So you've got an Aldi heating system. Okay, so this is kind of like top of the range central heating system that you've got in here. When I say central heating, I mean central heating in the sense that it has got radiators like this dotted around the vehicle. Now, anywhere that you see a sort of fins like that they are the radiators. Okay, and you'll notice that you've got little gaps running behind all of the cupboards that you wouldn't normally have in another vehicle which doesn't have the central heating. All right, so that is your sort of, that's where the heating comes from, is those physical radiators. So what you have is a main screen just here. Now it's telling you internal temperature and external temperature. Okay, and it's also telling you up here that the pump is running inside the wardrobe, which is a very quiet noise that you can hear whenever you're using the heating. All right, so this is just the main screen. This is what comes on automatically. When I press menu, it comes up and gives us a few options. So at the top just here, we've got our target temperature for the heating. So 23 degrees would be the target temperature inside the van if I was to turn it on. Okay. The next one down is our hot water setting. So we've got 1 or 2, basically. There are your 2 options. Okay. We've then got the way to actually turn the boiler on, which is either on mains electric, which is this one here with the little spark symbol, or gas. Okay, so at the moment, because I don't have either of these options on, they both say off, the boiler is completely off and is not doing anything at all apart from pumping around a little bit of water around to the boiler, around to the radiators. Okay, so let's just say, for example, right now, I know, we all know that I don't have the hookup plugged in because you've seen it on the outside. So if I turn it on the gas, because I've got the gas on, now, after a few seconds, the boiler will start trying to light up on the gas and it will start doing whatever I've told it to do up here. Okay, vice versa, if we don't have the gas on but we do have the hookup plugged in, we can go 1, 2 or 3 kilowatts of electric. Now I will say, just for your own benefit, 3 kilowatts of electricity for that boiler is kind of like a ridiculous amount of power. It's almost 12 amps. So if you just think, if you're plugged into a 10 amp post on a campsite, you're going to be overloading it straight away and it's going to trip outside. So I would always recommend using it on 1 or 2 kilowatts, because 3 is just, you know, it's much too much power really. Just something to bear in mind if you are going to use it. But that is honestly it. There's not really much else to explain about it. You've got your gas and your mains, you've got your hot water and your heating. With the heating, when it gets to that target temperature, it will switch itself off and back on again, just like a household heating system, and it will just keep it there at a certain level. So it's really quite nice and easy. If you want to turn the whole thing off, turn it off like that, and that's it. That is the heating and hot water. It really is that easy. So, on the kitchen side of things, so as I said earlier, we've got the hot and cold tap just there. Below that, we've got a cover and draining board here for the sink, and then just more storage down there. The cooking area, so you've got the 3-burner hob, oven and grill. So you've got the electric option at the back here. So this will not work unless the hookup is plugged in, okay? So just bear that in mind. It won't do anything at all if the hookup isn't plugged in. All right, 3 burners all work with this one ignition switch, including the grill and the oven as well, okay? So any of those burners all light up with that one ignition switch. And as I said, the grill and the oven all work on that one as well. We've got grill here and oven to the right. And the only other thing that I would say, because I don't tend to explain these in much detail because they are very, very easy to use, all I would say is to make sure that you allow this top part of the cooking area to cool down before you put the glass lid back down. If you put the glass lid back down too soon, when it's too hot underneath, the glass lid will shatter, and I've seen it God knows how many times. So just allow it to cool down a bit at least before you put the glass lid down, to save it from shattering. The microwave up here is a mains powered appliance, so it won't do anything at all unless you've got the mains cable plugged in. All right, but then after that, it's just like any other household microwave, to be honest. It's, again, nice and easy. Some pull-out drawers just there, and your cutlery drawer that I showed you earlier. So the bathroom, I'll show you that before I forget, because I'm good at doing that. We've got the hot and cold tap there for the sink, nice and easy, just literally left for hot, cold, right for cold, sorry. Shower unit, same again, hot and cold tap there with your shower head, which you can adjust the height of. The doors just here, as you can probably tell, will slide all the way around and completely close up to stop everything from getting wet. So what it will do is a really cool design actually. When you pull on this door here, it will catch onto the other one and then pull the other one round as well, so that when you get to here, you've completely closed it up. So it's a really clever little design. Same again for closing it. Push it all the way back, and then to save you from, you know, getting a headache when you're driving, make sure that you put this thing across like that to stop it from flying open. The only thing that I really spend much time explaining in the bathrooms though is the toilet. So if you haven't used one of these ones before, I can't expect you to know how to. So basically, if you want to flush the toilet, if you want to get some flush going into the bowl there, you press this little blue button at the top. Now the blue button, you do have to have the water pump switch turned on in order for it to work. So you will have to fill the fresh tank up a bit first before you can use that. Water pump has to be turned on. Press the button there to get your flush going around. And then when you want to drain whatever's in the bowl here into the actual cassette, pull on this handle towards you, like that. And now the flap is open. So anything that's inside this bowl here will be draining out inside the cassette. Push the handle back, and that's it, ready to use again. Quite simple. The little, might call it an extractor fan. This little thing up here, it's not necessarily a fan actually, but it's like an air vent. If you want to open it, so it's in a lock position at the moment, which I'll leave it in. If you want to open it, you twist this to the right and then push up. And that will then be the sort of vented. But you will find that when it's quite windy, you're going to want to close that back over. So I will leave that in the closed position for now. Okay, so the fridge is the next thing to show you. So this is a Dometic 3-way AES fridge. So AES stands for automatic energy selecting, and it means that you've got the option here of this little A button. Okay, now the little A will basically automatically choose between one of the three options for you. So the three options are mains electric, gas, and 12 volt. They're the three options for cooling the fridge. If I press A, if I turn it off, it's probably doing that because I've actually chosen the correct one anyway. So because it's got I haven't got the hookup plugged in and I don't have the engine running, when I press A, it's actually chosen that one anyway. Right, so let's start from the beginning. So we've got the mains electric, gas, and the 12 volt. So if we're hooked up on the mains, we would choose mains. Okay, it's going to flash at us and tell us that we can't use the mains because there's no cable plugged in, like that. So for the time being, I have to use the gas. So these two options here are really the only two options to actually get the fridge cold. Okay, the mains electric and the gas, hence why they're laid out like this. Yeah, so these two are your main sort of options there for getting the fridge cold. The 12 volt electric here, this one here, which will also give us a fault code. All right, the 12 volt electric is only for keeping the temperature inside the fridge whilst you're driving. And that is honestly all it will do. It won't get the fridge cold by itself. And so all it's there for is holding the temperature whilst you're driving. So you must pre-cool it on either one of these two here. Switch over to 12 volt just for when you're driving. And that's it. You've got your temperature selector here. Okay. And that's it. So I'll just explain something else to you as well. In regards to the 12 volt option there, the little battery symbol that you have, the reason that only works when your engine's running is because you've got what's called a split charge relay or a split relay. Okay, now what the split relay does is it actually takes a little bit of power from the alternator, so takes power from the engine running, and sends it to the back of the vehicle so that your leisure battery is charging whilst your engine's running, and you've got the 12 volt option of the fridge. So that's why when I tried to choose 12 volt just then, even though I've got the 12 volt power on in the back of the van, it doesn't use the leisure battery's power, it actually uses the engine to work. So without the engine running, the 12 volt option will not work. But that being said, once you've got to wherever you're going, because of that split relay, your leisure battery will be full power because it's been charged up. Last thing to say about the fridge is that you do have to remember that it will take a good 3 or 4 hours to get the fridge completely cold. And that's especially if you've got stuff in it as well. So just bear that in mind. If you're going to go on holiday tomorrow morning, I might recommend, getting it cold overnight the night before, or at least going out a few hours before you leave and switching it on. Okay. And the wardrobe's probably the last area that I need to show you. We've got your full-size standalone table just here, and we've got your tilt and turn TV aerial. So to actually adjust the TV aerial, undo the nut at the top just here, which is what I've done there. So that's tightened it up and that's undone it. I can then physically lift the TV aerial and put it to wherever I need to put it. Whenever I move it, if you have a little look at this signal booster, the signal will change colour. So it's just going in between sort of amber and red at the moment, and that's because we're inside. We're not actually outside right now, so it's not going to get you a very good signal. When you're outside, have a little play with it, twist this around to wherever you need to go to until you get a green light come up on the signal finder, and then you can get a really good signal through to the telly. But yeah, honestly, it doesn't get much easier than that. Physical tilt and turn TV aerial was actually a very, very good thing to have. A lot of the static ones don't get a very good signal nowadays. So yeah, but there you go. So I would recommend turning the signal booster off when you're not using it, because it will draw a little bit of power. And then the only other thing in here is you've got paperwork in this folder just here, loads of it, so you can have a good look through all of that. And your heating system has got this little reservoir here at the back, so don't worry about this whatsoever. Leave this as it is. If you see the fluid level starts going down quite low, then get in touch with someone or us, and we can have a little look into sorting that out for you. But it shouldn't do, really. And that's about it, to be honest with you. There's not really much else for me to show you. I think I've shown pretty much everything that I can. If there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you want going over again, just give us a shout. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.